Hi, good morning. It is Thursday, day after the 4th of July. I hope everybody had a nice 4th of July. We're going to have a special guest again today, a gentleman by the name of Chris. Chris was imprisoned for a murder that he did not commit. It's a case that I did work on along with attorney Harlan Braun. Harlan was on the show last week. And I'm only bringing up cases that I worked on simply because I obviously have information on it. I know all about it. But we'll have Chris joining us in a few minutes. One of the things that I had also spoken about last week, I want to mention again. Again, this is about. I'm not complaining about police officers. I get it. It's a very difficult job, and in fact, in this particular case, I have to commend the detectives on this matter. The issue that I have was not with the detectives, but with the DA's office. And again, the discretion that the DA's office uses when they start filing charges. Again, there was a gentleman that was shot on video in the back by an LAPD officer. The DA refused to file any charges. And again, this is on videotape. And in contrast, I'm looking at Chris's case where there was very significant information to show that he was not the shooter. And regardless of whether or not he was the shooter, the issue is also that the information also proved the same as the DA's comment with this LAPD officer killing this gentleman in Venice. They didn't feel that they could prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. This was the same situation. The district attorney's office could not have proven this case beyond a reasonable doubt. The case was reversed. He was convicted. The case was reversed. He was given a new trial on the prosecution's failure to disclose certain information. And before we had a chance to do a new trial, again, in a study that I did going through the discovery and also in conjunction with Harlan Braun, we were able to establish that, number one, I believe 5 separate weapons were used. Anyway, we'll get into all of that in a few minutes. But that's what this is about. And I also wanted to point out in the state of New York, they have just passed a law creating a prosecutorial misconduct commission that district attorneys who are not truthful, district attorneys who don't take into consideration the welfare of the people and the law, not so much what they want to do, can actually be disbarred. They can actually be removed. And in fact, when the new district attorney took his position in Philadelphia, I believe he fired 37 prosecutors. 37 people were terminated from their jobs because he was an attorney who felt that they weren't doing what they should have been doing. They weren't upholding the law. They were just sort of following their own agenda. So joining us now is Chris. Chris, you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Again, we're going to talk about your case. We're going to talk about circumstances. I also want to get into what life was like in prison, and one of the key issues I wanted to ask you about, not just what life was like in prison, but what was life like in prison when you found out you were going to get a new trial? That had to be quite a revolution after being sentenced to, I believe it was 150 years, was it not?
Yes, 150 years to life.
And to life. And at 150 years, so people understand the system, at 150 years, and this was the individual who died was a gunshot. So it's a violent crime. And being a violent crime, you end up ultimately serving 85%. So you would have had to have put in 85% of 150 years before you'd even have been eligible for parole. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. I remember vividly that when I went to the first board hearing, the gentleman conducting the board meeting was telling me that my parole officer, he's not even born yet. It was saying,
Chris, you're kind of breaking up. If you can.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's not coming in that clear. Maybe pull yourself back a little bit from the phone and start over. I'm sorry.
I can hear you clear. Can you hear me now?
Maybe you're in a bad area. So let's start at the beginning. So this was in May of 2005 was the actual incident, correct? And the police weren't actually able to. So you didn't get arrested until when? What year was that? 2006, was it?
No, I got arrested November of 2005. So,
okay,
about 6 months after.
Got it. Okay. And so, essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, you and some friends were over in what's considered to be a gang area. Now, again, you're obviously not a gang member, even though they tried to say you were. But you're over in a gang area, and you're basically cruising an area. When I was a kid growing up, it was Van Nuys Boulevard. And you're over in an area where you're looking for girls, and, you and your buddies, I know it was a friend of yours' birthday. And as you're going by a popular area, shots were fired. Now, admittedly, you had your gun with you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but the gun was legally purchased. The gun was registered to you.
Correct.
Okay, and as you're driving by this area, and again, there's a lot of traffic, so it's pretty slow moving at that point. Tell us what happened, other than I know shots were fired, but start there when you heard shots being fired.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you've ever been on Sunset Boulevard where traffic is literally jam-packed. There is no movement.
Yeah, I don't want to get into streets and locations and areas. It's pointless.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. So the short version,
but okay.
You're sitting in traffic is the short version.
I'm sitting in traffic. A guy walks up to my passenger window in an aggressive manner, and he's, I guess as they say, banging his neighborhood. I let him know that I'm not affiliated with any gangs. I don't gang bang. And he just kept in an aggressive manner yelling at me. And I'm trying to use diplomacy and let him know that I'm not affiliated. Well, after a couple of seconds, that didn't work, and he reaches in his waistband and pulls out a gun, points it at me, pulls out a gun, and pulls the trigger. Well, I ducked out of self-defense. I fired back. And then from there, it was just chaos.
Okay.
And it was all over in a matter of 8 to 10 seconds. But it was just literally in a blink of an eye that it was all over.
Yeah.
And
things can happen pretty quickly. So
it can happen. So when people say that your life can change literally in a matter of seconds, I really believe that. I mean, I'm a living testimony to that.
Okay. That
literally your life can change in a matter of seconds.
So it's kind of interesting because the driver of your car has said to you and has said to me on more than one occasion that probably wasn't the smartest thing for you to be carrying a gun that night. But had you not been carrying a gun, had you not defended yourself, had you not fired back, the short version is you'd probably both be dead at this point. So again, I certainly don't condone people carrying weapons, but the fact remains that this was one of those circumstances that I guess in the big picture, it's probably fortunate for you and for your driver that you did. So moving forward, when you went to trial, there was an investigator, there was an attorney. It's my opinion, and I'm going to stay away from names. It's my opinion that I don't really think they did everything that they should have done for you. Unfortunately, we're going to have to take a quick break. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back and talk about certain aspects of the trial and talk about certain aspects of the investigation. You're listening to All Things P.I. with Scott Ross, KCAA Radio. You are welcome to text me, 818-744-9827 with questions, and we'll be right back.
NBC Talk Radio, KCAA 1050 AM.
Are you having trouble sleeping? Are you always tired and worn out? Is it affecting your work and personal life? Well, South Pacific Sleep Lab can help you out. South Pacific Sleep Lab provides a personal study of your sleep patterns. With their trained specialists, they will diagnose your sleep habits and will give you a prognosis for getting a great relaxing night of sleep. South Pacific Sleep Lab has locations throughout Southern California, including Fontana, and will provide transportation to any of their locations at no cost to you. To find out more, give them a call at 844-SAD-5050. That's 844-SAD-5050. South Pacific Sleep Lab. Start resting easy and sleeping sound today.
Hi, my name is Phil Grandy, philsgang.com. Most people would love to be in the stock market, but they're scared not being in, they're scared about not getting out in time. Well, that is over, because now you can join Phil's Gang and my stock video program and follow me with specific stock on the video, and you will be out in time.
Find out more at philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264. Why pay thousands of dollars for a weekend seminar when for only $39.95 a month? philsgang.com provides all the daily market investing information you need to make profits in the stock market. With over 40 years of investing experience, only Phil Grandy and the philsgang.com team provide daily live investing webinars, up to the minute market updates, all the investing educational videos you can imagine. Don't hesitate to learn, invest, and make profits. Go to philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG, 877-600-4264.
Bye-bye, sailor. No more sailing.
Okay, we are back. All Things P.I. with Scott Ross. I'm still here with Chris. Chris, you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. So one of the things, again, that we were talking about is you ended up getting an investigator. You got an attorney. You went to trial and you lost, and ultimately hired a gentleman, Bill Copany, who sadly is no longer with us, a fabulous appellate attorney. Bill passed away, and you were granted a new trial. Do you remember why you were granted a new trial? Do you remember the specific grounds?
There was a total of eight reasons.
Okay.
One being prosecutorial misconduct, due process a violation of my due process rights. Would have to dig deep to go through all of them.
That's okay.
Through paperwork, but there were 8 reasons, but the 2 biggest being due process rights being violated and prosecutorial misconduct.
Do you remember the specific due process that was violated?
Yes.
Okay.
During trial, even though my gang allegation was dismissed and there is no gang stuff for me, but I was still throughout trial labeled as a gang member.
Right. And again, this is one of those situations that the DA's office seems to believe that almost everybody who lives in the southern portion of Los Angeles or even of color is a gang member. We even at the end of the case, there was still an issue where the judge made a comment still believing that you were a gang member. It was pretty insulting to your family that was sitting there. I did not hear it. Your family was in the courtroom and they had to listen to this judge. It was very inexcusable. But so anyway, point being is that when I got involved in this, turned out, and again, it's kind of a sad situation. Somebody passed away. Somebody was shot and killed. And unfortunately, though, for the police department, the shot fired was what's called a through and through. In other words, the projectile from the gun was never recovered, and the gentleman, when he was shot, didn't actually go down. He ran over and jumped in a vehicle. The driver of that vehicle drove around, unfamiliar with the area, didn't know where to take him, was trying to take him to a hospital, had no idea where to take his friend. And when the police arrived at the scene, they found, I believe, casings from 5 separate weapons. The casings were all then run through a computer system called NIBIN. It's an acronym, National Integrated Ballistic Information Network. And all weapons, when they're fired, either the projectiles or the casings, are entered in there. It's like a fingerprint database for weapons. And all of those weapons, with the exception of yours, actually, came back with varying hits for shootings, gang shootings. Now, again, the weapons weren't necessarily recovered, but the casings were. And so we were able to establish that, number one, there's no way to determine which weapon actually fired the shot that killed this gentleman. We were able to establish that there was no projectile recovered, and one projectile that was recovered from another individual that was not identifiable was allegedly turned over to, according to the police report, was turned over to the father of one of the victims, not a victim who died, but one of the victims. And in fact, I went to the hospital and spoke to their head of security, the former LAPD homicide detective, who basically said that's not true, that they have a specific protocol for projectiles for shooting victims, and that they maintain those. And the police, I don't want to say ignored that. I don't think the police did. I think they indicated that. Again, my complaint is that the DA's office. So you have a situation where the DA's office could not have proven your case, yet you were convicted. Do you have any idea why? Did anybody talk to the jurors afterwards? Other than they repeatedly portrayed you, I get it, as a gang member. Additionally, if I remember correctly, it's called a sodium rhodizonate test, where there were strikes on a wall that the police tried to portray the prosecution tried to portray as shots having been fired and hitting a wall. And when in fact the ballistics person, the LAPD ballistics person, did the sodium rhodizonate test, she came back and said that's absolutely not true. Yet in closing, the prosecutor still referred to those as having been shots that you fired and allegedly missed. So the argument being is that those shots, she tried to say that those shots were going in the opposite direction. Therefore, they had to come from your vehicle or another moving vehicle. And yet, in fact, we know that they were not even shots that hit the wall. They were just holes in a cement wall. More importantly, there was another car that was described as red. The vehicle that you were in was not. There was another car that was red that was identified by two independent witnesses as having fired from the street the first shots. So it was evident to me that those shots were fired from the red vehicle first, returned fire from the street, came back, and again, one hitting your car, or the car that you were in, excuse me, it wasn't your car. One, or actually two shots fired, hit the car that you were driving in, and then you returned fire. But again, we have no idea if you actually hit anybody.
Correct.
Why was it not presented? I get you're not the attorney, but why do you think it wasn't presented like that to the jurors?
Well, Scott, I've asked myself this question many times over, and I've come to the conclusion that either I had the worst attorney in America, the dumbest attorney in America, or he didn't fight for me at all. And I've seen cases that he's won, so I know he's not a dumb attorney. And the only other reasonable explanation is that he didn't fight for me at all. He just did not fight for me. Yeah,
unfortunately, I think that's quite accurate. But again, I just would rather not use names. So you get convicted. So tell me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name names.
Yeah. So tell me what it's like. So what happens when you first go to prison? Because again, I'm sure people are sort of interested in that.
Well, it's a shock because, okay, I'll take you to sentencing. Being in the county jail, you always have a court date. So you get arrested, you're in custody, and you always have a court date. So you look for the next court date. You look forward to seeing family and friends and hopefully hearing good news. Well, once you're sentenced, there are no more court dates. You are now on your way to prison for either a determinate or indeterminate amount of time. And
yours was an indeterminate. So anytime you have a
correct.
to life added on, that means that it becomes up to the Department of
Correct.
Corrections.
I was sentenced to 150 years to life, which is
an indeterminate sentence.
Basically, I mean, lock up and throw away the key.
Right.
That you're fucking it done.
Right. Let me ask you, I wasn't there at sentencing. Did you have to get a lecture from the court?
Yes, I remember the judge saying that I would spend the rest of my natural-born life in prison, and he sentenced me to this amount of time, this amount of years, and
yeah, there are several judges that I have seen and been in front of that really want to give you their little lecture on life and tell you what they think, and literally, I think they become so far removed from reality, but that's a whole separate issue.
But, you know, Scott, I just never accepted it. I said the truth has to come out. I can never accept that. Like, some people accept it and they lose hope. And once you lose hope, I mean, guys, the pressure is so great. I mean, I've known guys that have taken their life through suicide because it's just too much pressure. But between reading my Bible every day and talking to my family, it gave me hope, and knowing that the truth will come out. It gave me hope to fight another day, to make it through another day. Okay.
Well, separate issue, and I appreciate it. But so tell me, when you initially get to state prison, I mean, what do? They classify you. So they sit you in a room and start asking you questions, whether or not you're gang affiliated and whether or not you have tattoos.
Well, before they do any of that, the first thing you do, you take off your county clothes, and then they give you prison clothes, which is just basically a paper jumpsuit, and you sit in a tank while they read your file. So they don't know anything about you. All they have is a stack of papers that came from the county and the courts. And they read your file, and then they classify you accordingly to your file. They're not going to put somebody that has a 2-year sentence with somebody that has a 100-year sentence. So they look according to in your file to see how to classify you accordingly. And in prison, you're only housed with your race. So if you're black, you'll be housed with another black inmate. If you're Hispanic, you'll be housed with another Hispanic inmate. So as soon as you get off the bus, you go into a holding tank, and the classification process starts.
Okay. Also, you get points when you get into prison. You get points, and the points determine your level. And there's levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 4, I think it's recently been changed, but 4 is 22 and a half, and 1 and 1.5. So you're in your cell for 22 and a half hours a day, and you're out for, I believe, an hour and a half a day. It used to be 23 and 1. I think they've upped it another half hour. So when you went in, points, explain the points. I know that points are based on the crime itself, the level of the crime. There's also a basis of the amount of threat that you present, or that the guards believe that you present to them, to the security. So if you're in jail for having assaulted or, God forbid, shot a police officer, you're going to get a lot more points than if you're in jail for domestic violence or whatever the case may be. Again, the issue is the threat that you present and the safety that you present to the staff itself. So unfortunately, we have to take another break, but I want to get into the points and how many points you had. And if I'm not mistaken, you can only cut down 3 points a year is the max that you can lose. If anybody, well, hang on to that thought, Chris. We have to take a break. But if anybody has any questions for Chris, because he is on the line, we're not able to take any calls. But you're welcome to text me. My cell phone is area code 818-744-9827. That is my personal cell phone. And again, feel free to send me a text if you have a question. And Chris, hang on, stay there. We'll be right back.
NBC Talk Radio, KCAA 1050 AM.
Hi, my name is Phil Grandy, philsgang.com. Most people would love to be in the stock market, but they're scared not being in. They're scared about not getting out in time. Well, that is over, because now you can join Phil's Gang and my stock video program and follow me with specific stock on the video, and you will be out in time.
Find out more at philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264. Why pay thousands of dollars for a weekend seminar when for only $39.95 a month? philsgang.com provides all the daily market investing information you need to make profits in the stock market. With over 40 years of investing experience, only Phil Grandy and the philsgang.com team provide daily live investing webinars, up-to-the-minute market updates, all the investing educational videos you can imagine. Don't hesitate to learn, invest, and make profits. Go to philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG, 877-600-4264.
Are you having trouble sleeping? Are you always tired and worn out? Is it affecting your work and personal life? Well, South Pacific Sleep Lab can help you out. South Pacific Sleep Lab provides a personal study of your sleep patterns. With their trained specialists, they will diagnose your sleep habits and will give you a prognosis for getting a great relaxing night of sleep. South Pacific Sleep Lab has locations throughout Southern California, including Fontana, and will provide transportation to any of their locations at no cost to you. To find out more, give them a call at 844-SAD-5050. That's 844-SAD-5050. South Pacific Sleep Lab. Start resting easy and sleeping sound today.
Okay, we are back. Chris, you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, so I want to talk about the points. So go ahead and explain the points. How many points when you did you get when you went in? Do you remember?
I started off with 68 points.
Wow. So you're level 4.
That puts you straight to a level 4,
right,
which is the highest security level in the prison system.
Right. Okay. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can only lose 3 points per year, and that's providing you behave yourself.
No, if you're working, you can lose 8 points a year.
8?
If you're not working, your behavior.
Yeah. And a lot of things. How do you at level 4? And I know typically you don't, but you did get a job.
Well, the guards are constantly evaluating you. They're constantly watching you. And they have a pretty good sense of judgment. They know who the troublemakers are, who the potential problems. Not 100% of the time, but they have a pretty good eye for that. And they observe you, and they watch me. I mean, it took at least a year, but as they watch you and who you interact with, when they search your cell, they go through your stuff, and they just get a vibe of you and a feel of you of who you are. And one CO, he said, man, I can see that you're not a troublemaker, and the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you talk, the way that you walk. And he asked me if I wanted to be a clerk, and I accepted that offer. And it was good. It was great. It broke up my day. It broke up because prison is so repetitious. I mean, you do the same exact thing, just about everything and every day, and it's at 4 o'clock every day is the count. At this time is lunch. At this time is dinner. Everything is on a set time schedule to the exact. So to have that job gave me an opportunity to stay busy. And when you're busy, it kind of takes your mind away from stressing about the problem of why you're there.
And
So it actually,
and as a clerk, you actually would have had access to people's files. So for them to, it sort of solidifies the fact that you weren't a gang member, because
correct,
yeah, I mean, it's
correct,
sort of absurd to give a gang member access to somebody's files.
correct.
And in fact, I'll take it to the next level. You're aware of it when you were in custody, when we were getting ready in preparation for the second trial. I actually contacted the facility where you were, and I spoke to a couple of supervisors, a couple of the officers. They were actually prepared to come to trial for you and do a character reference, and you're aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so you get a job as a clerk. So when you first got there, though, who was your first, as they call them, cellie? Who was the first person? You don't have to use names. You remember what they were in for? Is it something that people discuss or don't discuss?
I do. He was a older black guy, without naming names, and he was from Oakland.
Okay.
And at first, he was a little nervous because he was only doing a year, I believe. And he found out how much time I had, and he was kind of scared. He was like, "Man, I'm not supposed to be in the cell with you." And once he got to know me and everything, he felt, I mean, we got along like two peas in a pod. I mean, we were perfectly compatible.
How did he find out what time you had or what you were in there for?
Well, you can't be in a cell with the person. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. How much time are you doing? I mean, if you're living in a cell with another person, that's usually the second question or third question that comes about.
Yeah, doesn't mean you have to answer it, but most people.
The worst thing you could do, one of the worst things you could do in prison, is lie to somebody, because that lie will be found out. And I mean, there's certain politics in prison, but honesty is the best way, and just be straightforward.
So how long did it take before they actually put you to work? How long were you doing that level for?
Oh, that took about a year. Yeah, about a year. About a year.
Before you actually started to get out and do some work.
Correct.
Okay. And you were actually in county for a pretty long period of time. And again, it's sort of an idiotic question to ask you whether county is better than state. They're both awful, but I know pending.
Oh, absolutely not. The county is by far the worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
The county, my gosh, Los Angeles County Jail is by far the worst. You just have people are extremely stressed out because they're fighting their cases. You have people that are coming up the streets that are still on drugs. You have people that have, in prison, you have guys that have been there 30, 40 years. So they're much more calmer, versus you have young hotheads that are literally fresh off the streets that still gangbanging, still just fully active.
And a lot of them
anything.
And a lot of them are trying to sort of
what I'm saying
assert
is
their power.
No structure. There's just no structure in the county. Whereas in prison, by 10 o'clock, it's dead quiet. Everybody sleeps. People have jobs. In the county, people are banging on bunks. There is no quiet time.
Right.
You have to figure out a way how to make some earplugs and go to sleep. There is no quiet time in the county.
And a job as a clerk is actually a pretty nice job, simply because no matter what the weather is, you're inside an office, you're inside their office, you're inside a building. It's nice and air conditioned, as a matter of fact. I certainly would not have wanted to have been there, but I'm saying at least you were able to get yourself a nice job. When I go visit prison, I know they're level 1. When I go to visit the prisons from time to time, when I see clients, there's always inmates outside working in the yard. They're, mowing the lawn, whatever the case may be. And I get it. Those are level 1. They're outside the security issues. But they're out there sweating. I mean, it's pretty damn hot in some of the facilities. They're not, with the exception.
With the heat wave, and man, it's pretty hot.
Yeah, with the exception of Pelican Bay and San Quentin, very few of them are in really, really nice neighborhoods. San Quentin is in Marin County, as you may or may not know. Pretty nice real estate. And Pelican Bay is right off the ocean. Unfortunately, Pelican Bay is also, the worst of the worst. And I've been there many, many times. So how long? Your cellie was there for about a year. Then he left. And then the next one that came in, how does that adjustment take place? Because theoretically, it's at that point, you kind of feel like it's your place, and these people are moving into your place the same way that you moved into that gentleman's.
Well, Scott, being in prison, you look at everybody as a potential threat. Can this person hurt me? Can this person harm me? And once you get over that, and other people, they look at you. I mean, they call it sizing up, but people look at people as a potential threat. And then once you come to a conclusion that this person's not, then you get along. But at first, it's kind of like speaking spoken to. There's very little conversation. And then once you get over that hump in the road, everything flows pretty well. Everything, it flows pretty well. But imagine being locked in a bathroom with a complete stranger that you do not know, and there's no way out. You're locked in and you don't have the key to get out. So you're trying to figure him out. He's trying to figure you out. What's the common ground? What's the common denominator? Other than the fact that we're two males in prison in California, you're just trying to figure each other out. Once you and you never try to figure out anybody 100%, but once you have a general understanding of each other, things flow smoothly.
Yeah. And you were actually in custody for 13 years, but you didn't spend that entire time in state prison, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I said you were actually in custody for a period of, I believe, 13 years, but not all of that was. You were fighting the case on two fronts. First, you had the original, and then, of course, you had after the appeal, you had the second one. So how long were you actually in state prison?
So I was actually in custody a total of 12 years, 5 months.
Okay.
Of total time. But most of my time was spent in a Los Angeles County jail fighting my case.
Right.
So I spent 7.5 years in Los Angeles County jail. And the rest of the time was spent in prison. So which was about 3.5, 4 years in prison.
And again, we certainly don't ever want anybody going to prison. So we're not trying to say it's a nice place to be, but it's certainly better than county jail. And the next issue is the appeals process. When you found out that you were getting a new trial, what went through your mind?
Wow, so I remember that day.
I'll bet.
I was in constant communication with my appellate attorney, and he was just telling me that just hang tight, stay out of trouble. I'm working hard. Things are looking very optimistic. No guarantees, but I have a good feeling about this case. So, I was just patiently waiting during the whole time. Like I say, you have to have hope. You have to have something to hold on to, something to get you through the next day. They have a saying in prison, and it goes, once you lose hope, you grab the rope. And meaning, when you have nothing else to hope for, people commit suicide, they grab a rope, or not a literal rope, but a sheet, or however they do it. So you always have to have hope, whatever it may be. You have to see that light at the end of the tunnel. It's something you have to stay optimistic in such a pessimistic environment. It is so negative in prison, so you just have to be strong, because if you're weak, you'll crumble.
Chris, hate to do this to you again. We need to take another break. Stay with us. We're going to come back. Again, my cell, 818-744-9827. If you have any questions, send me a text.
NBC Talk Radio, KCAA 1050 AM.
Are you having trouble sleeping? Are you always tired and worn out? Is it affecting your work and personal life? Well, South Pacific Sleep Lab can help you out. South Pacific Sleep Lab provides a personal study of your sleep patterns. With their trained specialists, they will diagnose your sleep habits and will give you a prognosis for getting a great relaxing night of sleep. South Pacific Sleep Lab has locations throughout Southern California, including Fontana, and will provide transportation to any of their locations at no cost to you. To find out more, give them a call at 844-SAD-5050. That's 844-SAD-5050. South Pacific Sleep Lab. Start resting easy and sleeping sound today.
Hi, my name is Phil Grandy, philsgang.com. Most people would love to be in the stock market, but they're scared not being in. They're scared about not getting out in time. Well, that is over, because now you can join Phil's Gang and my stock video program and follow me with specific stock on the video, and you will be out in time.
Find out more at philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264. Why pay thousands of dollars for a weekend seminar when for only $39.95 a month, philsgang.com provides all the daily market investing information you need to make profits in the stock market. With over 40 years of investing experience, only Phil Grandy and the philsgang.com team provide daily live investing webinars, up-to-the-minute market updates, all the investing educational videos you can imagine. Don't hesitate to learn, invest, and make profits. Go to philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG, 877-600-4264.
Okay, Chris, we're back again. You're everybody out there listening to All Things P.I. with Scott Ross, our very special guest, Chris. Okay, so Chris, you were telling us about you found out that you were going to get a new trial. I just want to tell you real quick, one of your witnesses actually just sent me a text, and I appreciate it, but send me a question. Don't send me a text. Well, you found out that you were going to get a new trial, and again, it's kind of interesting because people are not always aware of appellate attorneys. An appellate attorney is kind of an interesting job. It's a very difficult job because, again, you have to play Monday morning quarterback, and you have to be able to work with the existing attorney, and you have to, again, it's really easy to second guess. Now, William Copany, who did this, again, great appellate lawyer. In fact, I work with as they call themselves, the Women with Balls, Becky James crew out in Calabasas. And as appellate attorneys, it's very difficult because you're in regular communication with, like you said, people who seem to be virtually hopeless. And when you heard from Bill, what did you do that day? You have to. That's got to be a day that you remember vividly.
I vividly remember that day. I made a phone call home, and I just remember my family yelling with excitement, saying that we got a reversal. We got a reversal. It was reversed. And odds of getting a reversal are amazingly against you. I mean, the odds are not in your favor. And to get that reversal, I remember I was on the phone, and I remember I just started shaking out of excitement because my brain is trying to process the information that it's receiving over the phone line. And it just felt like the weight of the world was off my shoulder.
So it's kind of interesting because, correct me if I'm wrong, you get a new trial. You're told you get a new trial. Mm-hmm. So how do you go about dealing with the fact that your first attorney and your first investigator kind of let you down? So how do you deal with going about finding somebody to handle it the next time around? Because, again, that's really what it's all about. I will take the position, again, without names, I will take the position that had this case been investigated properly by somebody who either cared or knew what they were doing, take your pick, you would have never been convicted. And again, I get that sort of Monday morning quarterback nonsense, but you're being told you get a new trial and you're going to get a new trial, but what do you do? How do you go about picking an attorney? And I know you know your family picked Harland. I get it. But did you start to interview other attorneys, or did your family start to interview other attorneys?
Well, what we did, we just did not want to make the same mistake twice. So
Sure.
we did our due diligence, and we interviewed several attorneys. And actually, Mr. Kopeny, he actually screened them. We would bring attorneys to him, and he would say yes or no to this attorney. And Harlan was recommended by Mr. Kopeny, and because I actually wanted Mr. Kopeny to do my trial, but he said I only do appeals. I haven't been at that time, he said that I haven't been in the trial courts in over 15 years. I only do appeals, but he knew my case through and through. But, so we went through various processes of looking at different attorneys instead of just jumping out at the first one. But Mr. Braun came highly recommended from Mr. Kopeny, and that's how we ended up with Mr. Harlan Brown.
Got to be nerve-wracking, though, because you have absolutely no idea. You don't want to get back into the same position. It's funny that you say that. There's an appellate attorney up in Berkeley, up in the Bay Area, Cliff Gardner, whom I've worked with on numerous occasions. And again, Cliff is the same way. He brilliant mind, brilliant attorney, but has no interest in actually going into court and standing there and having an argument in front of the Court of Appeals or whomever. It just he's not an outgoing person in that nature. He does the appeals, he writes the appeals, and then he works with the attorneys to make the argument. So I kind of get it. Again, everybody has their strong points.
Well, you know, Scott, it's a different go-around. So let's just go back to the day that I was arrested.
Okay.
So my family gets a phone call that Chris is in jail. Now everybody's in panic mode. And when you're in panic mode, you're not thinking clearly. So, okay, Chris needs an attorney. He has a court date in 2 days for arraignment. So you just jump at the first attorney that comes your way. And that's how we ended up with a certain attorney. This time around, okay, let's do our homework. Let's take it slow. Let's take things slow and think rationally. And that's how I literally got a second chance. So we're going to try to do everything right this go around versus the first go around.
Yeah,
it started with an attorney.
Yeah, you did get a second chance, and I'm happy for that. And I'm sorry that you had to go through everything you had to go through. So when you started working in custody, so let's go back to custody, and you start working there.
Okay.
What was your interaction like with the other inmates? Because again, you're in kind of a prime position at that point. You know, one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, I shouldn't say recently, it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I received a call from a client who was in custody from a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I know cell phones, when you cell phones were pretty prevalent back then. Did you see cell phones in custody?
I did.
And those were coming in for the most part from the guards, were they not?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no other way that an inmate could go out and
Sure.
go to a local 7-Eleven and buy a throwaway. So yes, they come in through the guards.
I had a female client who was transferred from VSP, Valley State Prison, which is above Merced, down to Corona. And the day that she was transported down there, I think the police came in and arrested like 20 or 25 custody officers for contraband. And again, I know that it's really unfortunate, but drugs are prevalent in custody, and cell phones are now finding their way into custody. They're actually, though, I believe, and I don't know if they had them when you were there, they have pay phones there now, because every now and then I get a call from somebody from custody, and they're clearly using Global Tel. So
they're there, but what they're doing, the phone system for the prisons is called DTL, and that's how you will make a collect call to your family.
Right.
And GTL invests in a thing called an umbrella. So what they do is they try to they call it an umbrella, and it blocks all cell service over the whole prison.
Oh, interesting.
And it does it blocks all signals, whether it's the guard's phone or any signal on prison property. That's the way to eliminate. Well, with GTO, that's the step that they're going in to eliminate the use of cell phones. So literally, it'll be a dead weight in your hand. It's useless.
Yeah, this gentleman, I found out from a family member of his, paid a guard $1,500 for a phone. And I told him to never call me again. Last thing I wanted was my phone number showing up on his recovered cell phone. Yeah, I didn't know they were doing that. Yeah, Global Tel Inc. is the company I get calls from all the time. Well, I shouldn't say all the time, but I get calls from them.
Yeah, so they're really trying to stop it.
So when you were working as a clerk, what kind of things would you do all day? What was your life like when you were working as a clerk?
What
time did you go to work?
Basically, when I would go to work at 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay. Actually, I just got somebody from Arizona. Monica from Arizona wants to know for you, how has this case affected the way you see the justice system?
I just see how it's so easy to get caught up in the justice system and so hard to get out. And I'm just so grateful for my family that has the financial means to fight this system. Because, I mean, man, it is, like I've heard several attorneys say, or public defenders, or guys that had PTs, they would say that, they're overworked and underpaid, and a public defender may have 70 or 80 cases on his desk, whereas a private attorney would have maybe 10 cases and say my caseload is full.
And there's
that's not an option for him.
And there's some great public defenders, and I'm sort of...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I used to work with a gal, Geraldine Busnardo, who's a public defender who's now gone, but it's very...
I know a guy that I know with the public defender, he beat his murder charge, guy, full acquittal. So there are some good attorneys. The thing is just if somebody's going to fight for you, I mean, you could pay an attorney $1 million, and if he doesn't fight for you, then it's pointless. You just need somebody that believes in you and that will fight for you.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so that was the only question we got from Monica. Part of the problem with the criminal system, and that's why I'm so excited about this New York commission, is that I don't think that the prosecution really pays any attention unless it has a lot of publicity, like this police officer. Jackie Lacey, the Los Angeles County DA, said she didn't feel there was enough information to convict this police officer. Well, clearly there was not enough information to convict you, yet it didn't prevent them from going forward. And again, I'll say this: I think this sounds really bad, but I think in tracking you down and actually finding you, since you didn't stick around, and I get it, you were being shot at, but I think the detective that did this job, I think he did a really good job, and I actually know this detective personally. I knew him before your case. He's a very nice person, and again, he's had his own trials and tribulations. As a homicide detective, I can tell you he responded to the shooting of his own son. Very, very, very nice man, very competent, but when all is said and done, it's not up to the police department to actually file the charges. He did his job. He found out who at least fired one weapon. Anyway, so listen, Chris, thanks for joining us. We're going to have to go. We only got a few seconds left, and I just wanted to say that next week we're going to have Linda Deutsch, the amazing Linda Deutsch, who covered everything from Manson to OJ. She was a prize-winning reporter with AP, Associated Press. Linda's going to be in studio. She's going to be talking about her career and the cases and what happens afterwards. So thanks for listening. This is All Things P.I. with Scott Ross, and we're out. Thank you.
Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
I'm Chuck Kamlick, CNBC. We're less than 12 hours